Welcome back to the House of Bricks Live. I'm your host, Adam House, and today's guest is someone who embodies what this platform is all about: service, leadership, and the courage to keep building after the uniform comes off. Caden Buckley is a Marine Corps Infantry Veteran with over 12 years of service, multiple deployments, and now the founder of Sparrowhawk Security. They're a Texas-based company protecting America's critical infrastructure with small veteran-led teams. Caden, welcome to the House of Bricks.
Hey, Adam, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, it's great to have you. And let's get started just with that moment where you felt everything shifted. So you had spent over a decade in the Marines and then decided to leave. What was that like?
Sure. It was obviously a hard decision to make. It was really tough. Me and my wife really tried to take each enlistment, each 4-year block, as an opportunity to kind of reevaluate where we're at. So to be honest, I never went into the military with the do 20 years or bust kind of mindset. So the final enlistment I did, me and my wife sat down and just kind of thought that it was time to change and start our next chapter, spend some more time with the family, and felt kind of my efforts shifting from putting the uniform on to spending more time with my family and building something of my own. So it wasn't really a moment like, I'm done with this or anything. It was kind of just a strategic decision that I made with my wife.
Well, that's a good person to be in alignment with in this decision making. And I like the approach of just having those blocks, right? And what makes it a little bit different than entrepreneurship, you have a term, you make a commitment. But, you said that you did it, kind of both out of love for your family and respect for the Corps. Can you unpack that balance a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I love the Marine Corps. I love the military. And I think that it as an entity deserves people that are 100% dedicated to it. And unfortunately, a lot of people get to the point that I was at around 12 years, 10 years in, and they say, okay, I've done 10. I might as well just do another 10. And I think that can be a slippery slope. It can be a little dangerous. At least it was for me. I found myself at work in high stress environments, kind of thinking about the easy path. I don't know why I felt that way or what happened. I think it was just my family was growing. And instead of pure dedication to the service, I felt myself having too much personal input into some important decisions that affected a lot of people. So that's kind of just the baseline of that, to where I really felt that if I kept going just to keep going, that I would do a disservice to the country.
Yeah. And I love the fact, again, kind of putting family first, but it is also, it's very tough to balance. Do I spend more time with my kids? Do I spend less? I've gone through these different seasons in life, if exiting a company, which is similar, I assume, to the amount of commitment and effort of being in the service. To be an entrepreneur, you have to be all in. And when you're all in, there's unfortunately some collateral damage that comes with that. It's the people around you, potentially your family, yourself. So all of those things that come with it. One thing I've experienced also selling companies is your identity does become wrapped up in your business. And I'm sure that's the same in the service. What was that moment like for you when you made that decision and then the transition?
Yeah, so that's a good point you made. Right? Your identity does get wrapped up in everything. And I think, especially in the military, there's a place where that has to be the case. I think it has to be the case that when you're out and there's people's lives at stake and you're responsible for the well-being of, whatever size group you're with, I think your identity needs to be that. And that kind of builds upon my mindset of, you can't have too much personality in your decision-making in the military specifically. But like I said, it wasn't like this big moment of, okay, I'm done here. It was just a kind of a slower year or two burn of, I feel myself going down this path. And I think that now is the time to detach myself from the military so that I can give 100% of myself to start in the next chapter, because it was becoming difficult to give 100% of myself to the Marine Corps anymore.
Yeah, and I think a lot of veterans go through that, right? Because when you're in the service, you kind of, you have your tribe, you have your team, but when you come out, it's like, who's my community? Who am I running with?
Yep.
What advice would you give to veterans that are in that transition period now? Things maybe you wish you would have known, or things that were extremely helpful for you during that process?
Yeah. So the first thing, and I was pretty dead set on this, was to find a landing spot, like physically for your family, city wise, that has a strong veteran presence. Texas, obviously, in general, is very pro-military and has a lot of vets. But then inside of Texas, there's these whole microcosms of specific cities and towns that go that next step. So the first piece of advice would be research where you're going to go and make sure that you can run into another vet at the grocery store, or your kids go to school with dads and moms who are veterans, because it's been very helpful and refreshing to run into vets everywhere, whether they're young, old, just transitioned out. So yeah, find a place for your family that has a strong veteran community. And then I think another piece of advice would be really assess your values, the value you can bring to the world outside of the military. It's funny. I was infantry, obviously. So you sort of hear from the very beginning, and I'm sure you've heard this before from other veterans, you don't have any transferable skills. You can go be a cop. You can go contract overseas. Those things are true, and you'll be very good at those things just from your training. But the infantry specifically gives you a lot of interpersonal skills that you can bring forward. A lot of people in this country haven't led a group of 30 guys. There's a lot of people in the military that are 25 years old that have led a group of 30 people. So the leadership ability and everything that you bring out of the military can be very helpful. So yeah, find a landing spot that has a strong veteran community, and then know the value you bring to the civilian sector before you get out.
That's great advice. And that's part of the reason why we started the House of Bricks community, right?
Yeah.
Was just to get people on the same frequency, whether you're a startup founder, a veteran, or both. Who do you connect with? And we've really seen great relationships built from that, businesses being funded, businesses being started. So we're big believers in the power of community. And that's great advice. I've never heard anyone say that. And that's pretty solid approach, because even for your kids, right? Like, they understand, hey, I'm not the only one going through this, or
Right.
So I really see the power in that. One of the things that you mentioned was dealing with imposter syndrome. Yeah. As you step back into entrepreneurship. I think we all still deal with that every day. But how did you push through that? Yeah,
I don't know if I can give you advice of how I pushed through it, because I still deal with it every day. Even just getting ready for this, setting up to talk to you, you get the feeling like, who wants to hear from me? Like, even that everyday thing. But I think it's healthy. So I don't think it's anything that you're ever going to get over. You feel it in the military when you get a new job, or when you stand in front of a group of people that now, are told to follow you. The imposter syndrome, I think, is a healthy part of just your brain trying to keep your ego in check.
Right.
So how I deal with it is I just take everything and know how lucky I am, and be able to look myself in the mirror and know that I'm trying my best and helping other people. And as long as it hits a few key wickets of, this is valuable for me, my family, valuable for other people, then I can kind of guide myself to know that maybe I'm not an imposter.
No, and you're not. And look, we talk about for every positive, there's a negative current to it, and faith and fear, we say, both coexist. So if you don't have any sense of imposter syndrome, you're probably not trying to grow at all. So you should be looking at as a healthy tension to get the most out of you. That feeling of fear or need to prepare is what gets us ready. The more, like I said, we try to push ourselves, the more imposter syndrome you may feel, but it's knowing your foundation and what it is you're trying to do and to build. So
Right.
I'm sure you're not the only veteran that is experiencing some of that imposter syndrome. I know you said you didn't really have a framework in how to get over it, but is there one key piece of advice you would give them regarding that?
Yeah, I think this kind of goes hand in hand with the other advice I gave, was doing a real assessment of the value that you bring. Look at successes you've had in the past, look at failures you've had in the past, figure out what value you can be as a human and contributing member to society. And if you're doing something that you know is valuable and people have told you that, you can see the effects of that, then you can put that in the bucket of, this imposter syndrome is something that my brain is doing. It's not necessarily me.
Yeah, and that ties right into our next piece, which is the test, fail, learn, grow flywheel. We're all about flywheels at the House of Bricks because we love that constant movement. But you just spoke a little bit about failure, and through that model, right? Testing, failing, learning, and growing. That energy, will create data. That data, will give you feedback, and then that feedback will help you make better decisions down the road. So let's talk about your test, fail, learn, grow framework. What was the test? Where did it fail, and what did you learn in the process?
Yeah, sure. I think the example that I sent over to you and the one I want to bring up is applicable to a lot of people in the military. So that's why I wanted to talk about it, even though it's not super fun to talk about. Really, the test was, I left home at 18. I had been with my girlfriend at the time since we had just started high school. Did my first deployment and then decided to get married, as most young infantry Marines do. Got married at 20, and then really didn't realize the level of effort that it would take to be a successful member of the military and a successful American and foster a healthy marriage. So very quickly learned that if I didn't pivot and figure out how to, develop a healthy marriage with my wife, somewhere that I could have a support system and kind of get out of my old ways, that very quickly both aspects of my life, family and my duty to the Marine Corps, would slowly start to fall apart, which they did.
And what would you see is, I'm kind of reading, but obviously able to make an assessment, but what did you see kind of as the failure in that whole process? You spoke to it generally, but was there?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say, luckily I'm happily married with a bunch of kids and everything's great now. Right. But the failure was literally the first 2 years of my marriage. I had no ability to be mature enough to see that it wasn't all about me. I had this successful career in the military, young as it was already. That was number one at all times. And anything that my wife did that wasn't aligned with my goals, it ended up being something that I looked at as a detriment. And then, I was drinking a lot. I was spending more time with my friends at the barracks, back in the barracks, instead of spending time with my wife. So those 2 years of the beginning of our marriage really started to fracture who I was just as a human, because, work was stressful, and I didn't realize that I was making home stressful, to the point where we'd almost just called it quits after like 18 months of being married.
And how do you think that, and I appreciate the transparency and authenticity, sharing that, and for people out there, communication is very important.
Sure.
In marriage and getting that alignment. How do you think this helped shape you as a leader and what you're doing today?
Yeah. So as a leader, it definitely helped shape my ability to foster more than one healthy relationship at once, which I think is just important in life. And it's helped me dramatically throughout the course of my military career, at home and whenever I'm away. I was able to figure out that being a leader in my home and building a support system, a small team as it was just me and my wife, is equally as important as the work I was doing in the military. And they built on each other. So kind of two supporting efforts with being a successful husband, loving my wife and having a good home fed directly into my ability to, one, just talk to people who are going through the same thing as me, especially as I got older, talking to the young guys who were getting married, young girls who were getting married, and telling them what I learned from this experience. But really just, it helped me build two successful relationships. And I just built off those, and they supported each other.
Oh, I love that. And we did kind of change up our normal order here on the House of Bricks Live, jump into that test, fail, learn, grow, because I felt like it was, personal, resonate with people. But now I want to dive into your business, Sparrowhawk Security. Can you tell us a little bit about that, where the idea came from, and what problem you're solving?
Yeah, absolutely. So Sparrowhawk Security at its core is a physical security personnel company. We bring in highly trained operators and build site dedicated teams enabled by tech to create an extremely low turnover, reliable security solution for high value facilities and assets. So think critical infrastructure, advanced manufacturing, anywhere that a critical asset is either being produced or being supported, we can put a team there and secure it. Okay. The idea came from my experience. So I decided to get out, like we already talked about. We talked about the no transferable skills, and then I started going to all the job fairs that you do as you get out of the military. And this is not a knock on those job fairs. They're incredible opportunities for a lot of young people to go and move on in the world. I just found myself in kind of a weird dynamic being 12 years in. So a lot of people get out after 4 years, totally fine, but it's a little bit easier to start your next chapter when you're 22 years old. You kind of have some more runway to deal with what you want to do with your life. So I'm going through these job fairs. I'm looking at these things. I'm going to the law enforcement booths. I'm going to the overseas security contracting booths, and I'm going to like the security guard company booths. And none of those things resonated with me because, like I talked about, adding value. I thought that I could bring some more value than that in the world. So I talked to my brother, who I started Sparrowhawk with. He said maybe there's a different solution, and we kind of started doing market research and figuring out where the gaps were. And then by learning about the industry and the ins and outs of the security guard industry and everything, we noticed that there was a talent gap in the people that were protecting these critical assets. We wanted to provide a solution where the skill level and the efficiency of the teams that are protecting these critical assets mirrors the importance of these critical assets continuing to operate.
Yeah, and how do you find and deploy veteran teams for this kind of work? Because like you said, that was where my mind was going. There has to be a major skill advantage to certain veterans. Even what you were talking about earlier, right? Leading teams of 30 people, managing $500 million budgets, high stakes, high pressure environments. Like there's a lot of value veterans bring to the table that's just human nature after being in the service for 12 plus years.
Yeah. We're really excited about this. And this was one of the things that just clicked in our head when we first started figuring out how we were going to staff these teams. Everything's just an idea until you figure out how to make it real. And, what I noticed as I was getting out of the military was more than when I first joined, there's a lot more guys that have done 6 to 12 years and decide to get out than there has been in the past. Like I said, I brought it up a little bit earlier. The mindset when I joined was if there was a guy who was in for 10 or 12 years, they were probably going to retire. They were probably going to make it to 20 years. That I saw that slowly start changing as I made my decision to get out of the military. So what we saw was a huge underserved talent pool of combat arms, Marines, every branch of service that are getting out with not 4 years of experience and leading a team of 4 to 6 people. There's guys all over the place that did 10 years that are getting out with some significant experience. And they don't necessarily have that booth to go to at the job fair that clicks with them and says, that's my next mission.
Mm-hmm.
So on top of what Sparrowhawk's mission is, we really want to serve that group of veterans getting out of the military at 6 to 12 years who don't want to go back overseas and contract, but have these specialized skill sets and a lot of leadership experience, bring them in to be the bedrock of these teams, and then just replicate that.
Yeah, it sounds like a powerful model, and meeting a need on both sides, empowering the veterans for that transition, and something I'm assuming they're passionate about.
Right.
And then like I said, just making that impact. So one of the things you'd also mentioned is just seems like a common theme here is just the importance of your family. And you said your real team was at home. How did that realization kind of change you as a leader in life and in business?
Sure. In business going into this, I think it gave me the mindset of there's other people like me. So let's find them. I identify with those people. My brother identifies with those people. Let's bring them in and make a team of like-minded people who have these skills. So in business, that's what kind of led us to target the group of people that were similar to us, right? And then, I've brought it up already, but a very lucrative path for someone like me getting out of the military, and I'm sure you've heard other veterans say this, is overseas contracting jobs. They're very good jobs, they're extremely important, and they pay well. But there's a lot of guys like me getting out that want to stay domestic and have the feeling of service. Still be very busy beyond 7 days a week, 24/7 on call if they need to be, but just stay in the United States of America and continue their mission here.
Yeah. And one of the things you said that really stuck with me, I was kind of laughing as I was reading it here, but veterans need to stop being victims and take the world by the balls. So I don't know if you saw What the Truck initiative we're doing, but Josh Kent, the Green Beret that's driving the Raptor, he when he was up here and we were filming, he said veterans don't want to hand out, they want to hand up. And so I am interested in your perspective of why you felt that quote needed to be in here, and if you can elaborate on it.
Sure. A couple of things. First off, to preface this, I love the veteran community. I'm one of them. I don't think there's any major issue with the veteran community at all. What I do think, I think it's two sides of the same coin here. There are some veterans that get out and they want to ride on their service, and they assume that they won't have to do as much work as other people because they're veterans. That's a very small minority of people, but those people do exist. I think one of the benefits that veterans bring into the workforce is just the ability to work 5 or 10% harder than the rest of the population, because that's just ingrained in them. So I think, like I talked about, adding value to the community, you want to get out of the military and add value to your community, to the state you're in, to the country that you live in. You want to continue adding value and continuing your mission. That being said, the other side of the coin is, I really think it's a dangerous game to just look at all veterans and put them in one pool of veteran equals good, right? Mm-hmm. So the people that are hiring veterans and the people that are evaluating veterans also, I think, have a responsibility to look at a veteran and ask what value they bring as well, and not just see, veteran equals good, because this is something I talk about a lot. You have to continue to add value to the community that you're in and be a contributing member to society.
Yeah, there's, just it's like saying an entrepreneur is an entrepreneur. There's a lot of differences between and characteristics of entrepreneurs. One thing I want to drill in on, as you were speaking earlier as well, and commented a little bit on there, as we've launched this What the Truck movement, we're actually talking to some corporate sponsors, maybe helping them with their veteran hiring. And you're right, like people just put "we hire veterans" on their website, like a feel good thing or a veteran job fair. But what's the through line that, and I know every veteran's different, but are there any common patterns or characteristics? Like if I'm CEO of a public company, I want to hire veterans, like what is that through line that's going to connect us in a way that's authentic to them?
Sure. That's a great question. And you're right. Some people just put hire veterans to get the badge on their website. And that's unfortunate. And I think that's the minority. And I think most people are doing a good job of it. Mm-hmm. But I think it literally, I keep bringing this up and I'm sorry. I think it just goes back to veterans, just by the nature of their service, are usually willing to work a little bit harder just because their life has been tough and they had a non-standard life from the time they were 18 years old. You're 18 years old and you're thrust into managing, whether it's assets or one person or talking to people that are much higher up than you, earlier than somebody would in the civilian world. Just the dynamic that they have to move freely throughout the military and understand the value that they bring within the military. Whenever you're an employer, I think if you're looking at veterans, you need to just honestly assess them the same way that you would anybody else, with the understanding that ingrained in them is maybe a higher work ethic and maybe a higher sense of purpose and them understanding what it means to really put in the work. But I think the lens just needs to be totally objective. Even if they are veterans, what kind of value can they bring?
Yeah, and you're right. People do want to serve and empower veterans, but they really don't know how to do it and how to make that connection. And that's what we're trying to do, just with the House of Bricks and featuring people like you, right? That we're in the service now. You have a successful business, leading your family very well. I'm inspired by the audible you were able to make, or the changes in direction and communication, and it's obviously paid off big time in the most important investment, which is in your family. So as we wrap up here, are there any closing thoughts that we should have talked about that we didn't, or things you want to cover?
No, I just thought of a answer to your last question about what the through line is.
Okay.
Get in front of them, I think, is the best way to be authentic. Go to the job fairs, be there, show them that you actually are there for them. Hand out your business cards, sign up to get on the list of people who demonstrate at the separation seminars on all the bases. Because a lot of problems that veterans have when they transition out of the military is there's this big umbrella of paths that you could take. But shaking somebody's hand at a job fair that comes to the base and shows you what you can do for their company and what their company can do for you is extremely beneficial.
Get out there. If you just show up, you can beat 80% of the competition.
Exactly right.
In anything in life. Just show up. So, well, I appreciate, once again, congrats on the business, the successful transition, and obviously the impact that you continue to make. And again, God bless you and your family. We want to thank you for your service and appreciate you being here on the House of Bricks Live. So thank you and look forward to supporting you. Let us know any way we can help you on your mission.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Adam. I appreciate it.
Thank you.